I'm Mike Bowers. I'm talking 10 years of pictures this morning with cartoonist for the Daily Telegraph, Warren Brown, and Andrew Mears, who's chief photographer for Fairfax. They've been two staples over the 10 years that we've been doing it in both the genres of cartooning and photography. Welcome, gentlemen.
Michael, I was going to bake you a cake, but that can make complicated television. So here's my Tim Tams for you, only 1.2 cents extra under a carbon tax.
I'll forward them on to the chaps down in Melbourne. Warren, John Howard was a mainstay of Talking Pictures for almost 6 years.
I know, I miss him so much. I really do miss being able to talk like that. It's sensational from a cartoonist's point of view.
He really did have very recognisable features, a real gift to you guys. His bountiful brows seemed to be able to be applied almost in any way.
Indeed, and I was Bill Leake who said once the GST came in, his bottom lip grew by 10%, which is a lovely line.
Yes, well, Bill did a cartoon of the GST being a great big hairy gorilla being legged from a cage, and the gorilla had almost exactly the same features as John Howard.
Yeah, it's a wonderfully cruel cartoon, and that's the great thing about cartooning. And in this country, you can be equally unfair to everyone.
One of his utter dependabilities, of course, was his morning walk, which really gave you guys access to him in an unscripted way, and you would often be out there first thing in the morning doing it. Why did you go and photograph him almost every morning?
Well, it was, as you said, something might happen. And that's the great fear of being a press photographer. You might miss something. So therefore, you have to turn up.
And in one of the great sort of cross-pollinations between, photography and cartooning, his tracksuit, that green and gold Australia thing, became just part of him as much as the eyebrows.
Relaxed and comfortable. Yeah. That was him, through and through.
One of the great cross-pollination that is never going to leave Alexander Dowler alone is the story of the stockings and the fishnets, which started from a really charitable thing that he was trying to do. And I've got to say, he actually doesn't have a bad foot. If that was my foot, it'd look like overbaked bread coming out of there.
Well, I must say he's rather fetching to the knees, from the knees down.
From the knees down, yeah.
So knees downer, perhaps, And it's stuck.
And boy, did it stick. To this day.
You'd kind of regret putting on stilettos. You think, if only I didn't do that.
You put on one fishnet stocking.
Look, we can't discuss the Howard government without sort of, the sidekick. It's like Butch Cassidy without the Sundance Kid.
Indeed.
Peter Costello. It was quite at home, really, in front of a camera, wasn't he? He kind of played it up a bit.
The smirk. I mean, every press conference you got that smirk where you could see some catalyst in his mind about to unleash a tirade.
You can't discuss opposition leaders without talking about the giant, the elephant in the room. Mark Latham he was a gift photographically, cartooning stories, the ink that must have been printed about this man.
He was the elephant in the china shop. To think that he came so close to becoming Prime Minister.
Andrew, he was never too fond of photographers, was he?
Yeah, he certainly took to a photographer's cameras with a hammer.
Yeah. And of course, when Kevin Rudd came on the scene, the cartoonist of Australia, drew his faces perfectly round. I remember Bill Leake told me that he used to use a 20-cent piece when he was still drawing.
Yes, it was just a sphere.
He would do strange things, like this is one of Andrew Taylor's from the 2020. He was sort of
that a great
folksy
idea, Mike? The 2020 summit? I criticise him for not really having a great visual language. Couldn't communicate visually, but he was incredibly aware where the cameras were and certainly played up to it.
If you went to Central Casting and you drew a politician for cartooning and photography in many ways, you couldn't do a better job than Tony Abbott. When the pugilist, the name itself, his boxing and his tendency to get into lycra, whether it's budgie smugglers or cycling gear.
Yes, I mean that's the amazing thing, and the budgie smugglers have stuck, very much in the same way that the fishnets have stuck for Alexander Downer, but it doesn't seem to put Tony Abbott off. He's out there peddling around.
I mean, never before has an opposition leader had as much media focus as this. And obviously the election results are part of that, but the fact is he is the master at the choreographed photo opportunity.
And of course, Julia burst onto the scene as the first female Prime Minister, and really historic picture.
Oh, absolutely. There's certainly a vibrancy, and I enjoyed the feminist colours and the flowers there as a subtle visual reference. But there's an energy, and that's what we are trying to do. You're trying to capture emotion and share that. On days like that, you can't but help soak it up. There
seems to be two features that people concentrate on with Julia Warren, cartooning-wise. It's the nose and the hair.
Well, there's three: the nose and the hair and the derriere.
Yeah, well, the derriere is something that it's come up lately. Is it fair to draw a derriere?
Things were happening so quickly. Poor Julia Gillard didn't get the opportunity for a honeymoon period, and so cartoonists was scrambling like RAF pilots and the sirens going off and just drawing flat out. As I said before, you need to be equally unfair to everyone.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure trying to sum up the last 10 years. Thank you very much for taking the time this morning.
Well, thank you, Mike. Hey, I've got something for us. Ready?
Yep, we're going to play us out.
And the key of this. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, Insiders. Happy birthday to us. And Barry too.
I think it's definitely back to you, Barry.
Wait for your 21st.